going with that. I decided to do the reading and do the summary too. So I've been doing that, and I'm copying and pasting the summary into a document, and that's what I'm doing right now anyway. So I don't know. It's helping me. Hurts your brain. Okay. Well, that might be true. That might be true. But I'm taking verses that I say, what does this verse actually mean? And it helps me it's kind of like a concordance, or kind of like a whatever. It kind of explains it a little bit better to me, at least. But I like it. But there's so many things you can do with it. But Brandy was showing me last week what you could do with pictures, and I took a picture of our little grandson in the living room floor with his tractor, and told ChatGPT to change the background to a farm scene. So he's sitting here with his tractor, and all this barns and cattle and chickens and stuff's in the background, all by itself. I didn't have to do anything to it. So, but anyway. I'm impressed with it. I really am, as far as the Bible is concerned. I really am, and I don't know whether you're really as impressed as I am, but it helps me. And but I am doing the reading, and did the reading this week, and then do the summary and do them both. So it'll help, I think, later on when you get into some difficult stuff. You thought that the reading and the summary?
I tried it on the, when I would go on the day, whatever it was, day 9 or whatever.
Right.
And I would say what the scriptures, where it began and where it ended.
Yeah.
And I'd say summarize and
right.
listen to what it had to say.
Yep.
I thought it was very neat. I've done that.
Yeah. You can print it, or you can listen to it too if you want to, if you'd rather do that. So it can't hurt. I'll put it that way. And it doesn't give you their opinion of the verses. It gives you what the verses summarizes exactly what the verses say. You can try Acts 2:38 if you want to, and you'll see what it says. But okay, Paul is frustrated when he's writing this letter, obviously, because he's gotten word from these people that from his sources there that there's people there that are criticizing him for not being an apostle. Criticizing him for coming there and not taking money even. I don't know what that means, but just to show that he really wasn't a true preacher, he didn't even ask them for help. And he's frustrated with all of that. And he wants to explain to them his situation, and he can't do it without bragging. He says bragging is not the right thing to do, but you see that he ends up doing quite a bit of that. When we get toward the end of this, I want you to think about it before we get there, about he tells them that what they are doing is another gospel. It's not the gospel that he preached. It's another gospel. Think about that. What is the gospel? What is the plan of salvation? The gospel is the plan of salvation, right? It's the good news. It's the plan. What do you have to do? What do you have to do to the gospel to make it another gospel? Change what? I guess you change one part of it. It would be another gospel, wouldn't it? We'll talk about that a little bit. But Paul is telling them that what they are doing, if they're doing it, he's saying it's another gospel. It's not the gospel, it's another gospel. So think about that. Think about what goes on today. It's another gospel. It's not the gospel, but according to what Paul was teaching and what he was taught. Raymond quoted from 22:16 today about the why tarriest thou and so forth. So Paul knew what he did, and he knew that what he had taught, and he knew that came from God. He knows that was not something false at all, but they're accusing him of what he did of being false. So that's frustrating. If people criticize you for something, and they're loose with the truth and don't worry too much about the truth, it's frustrating to try to explain yourself, isn't it? You shouldn't have to, but that's what he's having to do here. But he says, I hope you will put up with me in a little foolishness. Yes, please put up with me. So it's what he's getting ready to say to him is foolishness, but he feels like he's going to have to tell him that. I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promised you to one husband, to Christ, so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him. But I'm afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from your sincere and pure devotion to Christ. So he's thinking now that they're being misled, they're being mistaught, and they're beginning to believe something other than what they originally believed, something that was originally the truth. For, he says, if someone comes to you and preaches a Jesus other than the Jesus we preached, or if you receive a different spirit from the spirit you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted, you put up with it easily enough. I do not think I am the least inferior to those super apostles. I may indeed be untrained as a speaker, but I do have knowledge. We have made this perfectly clear to you in every way. So you can go back to 1 Corinthians. If you were there, you would have known what he told them when he came. And he's saying, if you believe anything, if you preach anything other than what I preached, then you're being deceived. You're being misled. And I think you could certainly apply that today, because we know what was taught, especially in Acts chapter 2, about all of the conversions in Acts chapter 2, what they were told to do in order to be saved. That's what they were all teaching at that time. That's what Paul was teaching, even though he wasn't part of the teaching that we have record of in Acts. He comes along a little bit later. Comments? I don't know about receiving a different spirit. I don't know how that works, but that would be similar to receiving another gospel or another fact or the truth or whatever. It's just completely, if it's different from what I told you, you can be assured it's what? It's wrong. It's wrong. It's not a gospel at all. It's something else. So it can't be trusted. What else you want to say? Was it a sin for me to lower myself in order to elevate you by preaching the gospel to you free of charge? Obviously, they were accusing him of that, right? What he preached wasn't worth anything because he came there and didn't ask him for any money. He didn't ask for any support or any food or anything. Was it wrong to do that, Paul's saying? Obviously, you were accusing me of that. Or the people that are trying to mislead you are accusing me of that. But Paul makes it real plain, we'll see, that some places where he went, he knew not to ask them for support because, of course, he had spiritual knowledge ahead of time. He knew not to ask them for money because if he did, they'd hold that against him. They'd use that against him. I can't imagine he ever thought that they would hold that against him for not taking money, but was it a sin for me to do that, he says? I robbed other churches by receiving support from them so as to serve you. So what did he do? Did he go around robbing churches? Obviously not, but what did he do? He got money from other people, other congregations that knew better, I guess. He says in Philippians chapter 4, verse 15, moreover, as you Philippians know, in the early days of your acquaintance with the gospel, when I set out for Macedonia, not one church shared with me in the matter of giving and receiving except you. So when he left Philippi, they knew he was going to need help, and they gave him help. For even when I was in Thessalonica, you sent me aid more than once when I was in need. So the church in Macedonia, or the church in Philippi specifically, sent him help. He mentions this earlier on in 2 Corinthians chapter 8, and I'm sure Sean went over this earlier. And now, brothers and sisters, we want you to know about the grace that God has given the Macedonian churches. In the midst of a very severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. So he got money, for I testify they gave as much as they were able, and even beyond their ability, entirely on their own. They urgently pleaded with us for the privilege of sharing in this service to the Lord's people. So a difference in people. Those people were more than happy to help him. They were convinced that what he was doing was the right thing, and he was leaving them and going on down to Corinth, actually, when he left Macedonia. And he went to Athens first and then to Corinth, and they knew that he needed help, and they were willing to do that. Joe?
In a reading I did the other night, I read it tonight, and it said that he was collecting money, but it was not for his own good. It was to show that the fruits from them for other churches. It was not for him, but it was to show their fruit for,
Yeah.
For another cause.
Well, this specific reason he was collecting money, and he had told the Corinthians to be prepared also, was for a specific cause, to help the brethren in Judea who were going through a famine. And of course, we've talked about that. That was for the purpose of not only helping them, but to kind of uniting Jews and Gentiles was Paul's main goal, I think. He wanted to show them that Gentiles could help Jews, and Jews in the past certainly was not willing to even accept that. They'd rather starve to death than do that. But that was the goal that Paul had. But this specific thing here, I think, is specific help just for him that he mentions here from the Macedonian, specifically the Philippi church, which is in Macedonia. So he was collecting money for a specific reason, because he told them to lay by in store on the first day of the week so that there'd be no gatherings when he got there. So they'd already have it. But here, these people were helping him specifically for his physical, personal needs, obviously. As surely as the truth of Christ is in me, nobody in the regions of Achaia will stop this boasting of mine. The regions of Achaia, of course, is part of Greece, just north of Corinth, I think. Why? Because I do not love you? God knows I do. I thought there was another verse of that one, but there's not. As surely as the truth of Christ is in me, nobody in the region of Achaia will stop the boasting of mine. So he's boasting of the fact that they helped him. And he preached to them without taking support from them. And he did it because, obviously, why? Because he loved them. This particular section talks about others preaching a ruse, R-U-S-E, and that's not a word I normally use. And the definition of that is an action intended to deceive someone, or a trick. A trick. Now, this didn't come out of the Bible. This is the heading in this particular setting, but that's kind of what they were doing. What they were doing was intended to deceive or to trick someone. And I will keep on doing what I'm doing in order to cut the ground from under those who want an opportunity to be considered equal with us in the things they boast about. So he's frustrated. He's aggravated with them, obviously. They're doing things to undermine him, and of course, obviously, he starts off a couple of chapters ago by saying, I don't want to do these earthly braggings, but now he's got to the point that I'm going to have to, it seems, and that's kind of what he does. For such people are false apostles, deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. It's not surprising then if his servants also masquerade as servants of righteousness. Therein will be what their actions deserve. Well, these people were pretty bad, weren't they? They were pretty bad. They knew they couldn't handle Paul otherwise, I guess, but he's willing to straighten them out, obviously. What do you want to say?
He makes reference to Eve in the first part of this chapter about how crafty the serpent was. And so, he knew what he was doing, the serpent did, and so these people know what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing. Yeah, they were they were masquerading to be something that they were not. They were false teachers, and they knew they were false teachers, according to what Paul is saying. They were like the devil, masquerading as someone other than the devil, obviously. I guess we have preachers like that today go around. I don't know how sincere they are. That's not something I can, of course, determine for sure, but knowing that you're going to say you can heal someone, you know you can't do it. I mean, that's just kind of masquerading as something you're not, and it's not good. But preaching a gospel other than the one that Paul preached. I repeat, let no one take me for a fool. But if you do, then tolerate me just as you would a fool, so that I may do a little boasting. In this self-confident boasting, I am not talking as the Lord would, but as a fool. He's not boasting. He knows he's not doing what he really ought to be doing, but he can't help it, I guess, because of what they're doing to him. Since many are boasting in the way the world does, I too will boast. You gladly put up with fools, since you are so wise. In fact, you even put up with anyone who enslaves you or exploits you or takes advantage of you or puts on airs or slaps you in the face. To my shame, I admit that we were too weak for that. So Paul's saying I wasn't going to do that. I didn't do that. I didn't have the time for that. I didn't have the energy for that, to do what they were doing, to exploit these poor people because they were willing to have confidence in them and to listen to them and take advantage of them. So Paul, again, has said, I'm being a fool to boast this, but it's just, you can kind of read between the lines. It's gotten to him to the point that he can't help himself, maybe. I don't know. This basis for boasting, he says in the latter part of this chapter, whatever anyone else dares to boast about, I am speaking as a fool. And, of course, that's a parenthetical thing, I guess. I also dare to boast about. What anyone else dares to boast about, I can do it too, he says. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they Abraham's descendants? So am I. So what does this tell you about these people that were misleading the Corinthians in the church there that Paul was writing to? They were Jews, obviously, weren't they? They were Jews. They were people who followed Paul after he was there, after he had established the congregation there. They came in behind him, the Jews did, and they were telling them things about Paul, that he wasn't a true apostle. He wasn't this, he wasn't that. He told them all this, and blah, blah, blah. And he's saying, if you're going to listen to them, here's what they're boasting about. They're Hebrews, they're Jews, they're Abraham's descendants. If they're going to do that, then I'll boast about that too, because I'm also one of those. Are they servants of Christ? I'm out of my mind talking like this. Are they servants of Christ? I am more. I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently, been flogged more severely, been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1. We could go back in several verses and pull some of those out. Maybe not all of them, but some of them. But the Jews' form of punishment was 40 lashes, but what did they do? They made it 39, didn't they? They made it 39. Why? What? 40, well, 40, yeah. They were afraid that they miscounted, probably, and they didn't want to do more than the law would allow. So they were so particular about making sure what the law did, but they didn't worry about mercy or anything like that. So they did 39 in case they miscounted. It's what I've always heard. I don't know whether it's true or not, but 5 times he did this. The 39 lashes, that's amazing. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. We don't have record of all of these. We know he's going to be shipwrecked later on when he goes to Rome, on his way to Rome. We know what happens in that, and toward the end of Acts chapter, the letter of Acts. We know that he was shipwrecked on his way to Rome, but this was before that. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I have been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from fellow Jews, in danger from Gentiles, in danger in the city, danger in the country, danger at sea, and in danger from false believers. I have labored and toiled, and I have often gone without sleep. I have known hunger and thirst, and have often gone without food. I have been cold and naked. Besides everything else, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all of the churches. One more verse. Who is weak? I do not feel weak. Who is led into sin? And I do not inwardly burn, he says. So, if you're going to boast, we're going to have a boasting contest, and what's going to be the outcome of that, obviously. And of course, Paul, the reason he's telling them all this, why would I have gone through all of that if I'm telling you something false? I didn't take money from you. I did it for the right reason, obviously. You ought to be able to realize that and think through that what I did was for this purpose and doing it for the right reason. What do you want to say? We could back up and pull some examples from all of those situations, or not all of them, but part of them. But I like the one, verse 28. Besides all these other things I went through, of all the getting beat and threatened and almost killed and everything, but besides all that, I face daily the pressure of my concern for all the churches. If someone doing it for the wrong reason wouldn't be too worried about that, would they? That one sticks out, at least to me. Comments? If I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness. The God and Father of the Lord Jesus, who is to be praised forever, knows that I am not lying. In Damascus, the governor under King Artus had the city of Damascus, I can't say that word, the city of the Damascusians, I guess, guarded in order to arrest me. But I was lowered in a basket from a window in the wall and slipped through his hands. Remember when that happened? That's when he got into it with the silversmiths, the goddess Diana, and telling them that was false. And Demetrius and some of the others, they had him beaten, taken to court, whatever. And I guess they were going to kill him, obviously, but they let him down through the wall of the city on the outside during the night, and he got away. So, if I'm a false preacher, am I going to go through all that? I'll get me another job, wouldn't you? If it's something that's false, is what he's trying to impress them with. Why in the world would I do that if what I'm doing is false? The answer is obvious, isn't it? Chapter 12, this book has 13 verses, but chapter 12 says, I must go on boasting, although there's nothing to be gained. I will go on to visions and revelations from the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven. Whether it was in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man, whether in the body or apart from the body, I do not know, but God knows. was caught up into paradise and heard inexpressible things, things that no one is permitted to tell. I will boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself, except about my weaknesses. Even if I should choose to boast, I would not be a fool, because I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain, so no one will think more of me than is warranted by what I do or say, or because of these surpassingly great revelations. Now, I don't have a clue who he's talking about. He knows a man that this happened to. A lot of people think it was Paul, but what does he say? Somewhere he says, it's not me. And I know this man, whether in the body or from the body, I do not know, but God knows, was caught up to paradise through them. I will boast about a man like that, but I will not boast about myself, except about my weaknesses. Maybe it was Paul. He's bragging about this happened to him, but it wasn't anything to do on his own that caused that to happen. I don't know. I can't explain that one. Anybody fear to jump or care to jump into that? AI just summarizes what these verses say. It doesn't, of course, obviously get into who it was or what that was all about. If you read the commentaries, they'll all say something different, but nobody knows what he's talking about here, I don't think. Anyone? Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. This is Paul. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, and in difficulties. When I am weak, then I am strong. Hard to feel that way, isn't it? Hard to feel that way, but that's how Paul felt. Now, everybody speculates on what the thorn in the flesh was. And all it is speculation. I don't think it's revealed anywhere at all.
Ralph, where it says therefore, he's talking about the man that was in the body or out of the body or whatever.
Right.
I mean, it sounds almost like he was given the thorn in the flesh because he saw these unexplainable things.
Okay. I don't know whether that was given to him or whether that was something he had his whole life. I don't know. It's all speculation for sure. A lot of people think it was his eyesight, because when he writes the letters, what does he signs them what? See what large letters or what large words I'm signing or something. I forgot exactly what it says, but. It says a messenger of Satan. Yep. A messenger of Satan to torment me. I don't know what it was. It was something that he wanted rid of, obviously, something that really aggravated him. It was some physical impairment, no doubt, because it says a thorn in the flesh. But he felt like if he didn't have that, he'd be a lot better, didn't he? Obviously, we would feel the same way if we had some physical handicap that kept us from doing this or that. We could easily say, well, if I didn't have that, I could do this or this or this or whatever. And that's kind of what Paul thought to himself. But what did God say? My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more glory about my weaknesses. So, if you've got this thorn in the flesh, it's going to keep you humble, isn't it? Humble. It's going to keep you humble, and so you're going to think about that rather than boast on your own merits or whatever, I guess. But I don't know what it was. But
It's interesting, he prayed 3 times, it says.
Mhm.
Jesus prayed 3 times
On the cross, yeah, three times. I guess 3 times is
in the garden.
in the garden, right? Three times is something significant, I guess. But for 3 times, Paul prayed that would be taken away. Evidently, nothing. He did not get an answer the first 2 times. So I would think, would he? I don't know. If God had told him, "My grace is sufficient for you," after the first prayer, do you think he would have prayed for a second or third time? I don't know. I don't think he would. I think after the 3rd time, God said, "That's enough. No more. This. You got this, and it's good for you, whether you think it's good or not." So, a lot of sermons been preached along that line about thorns in the flesh and things like that. We hate because we wish we didn't have. But I don't know what else to say. Anyone else? One or two other things he mentions later. Miracles are my credentials, and you'd think that would have been the first thing he would have done to me. I'd have gone over there, and I would have been able to perform all these miracles and shown these people that all these people were false teachers, but they didn't do that. Miracles were not given for that purpose, of course. But we'll see what he says about that. Everyone out? Joe, you want to say our closing prayer for us this morning?
Our Heavenly Father, it's with grateful hearts that we have assembled this morning, that we can study your word, that we can hear a message from your gospel, that we can do those things. We can remember your Son's suffering and death and the communion. We can do those things that we're required to do to be pleasing to you. We're so thankful for that. Be with us as we depart. Go with us to our homes. Help us to continue to study and to read and to do the things that you would have us to do. We might be more perfect or more complete in the knowledge of your word. Continue to bless us, keep us, be with those that are ailing, those on our prayer list, be with those that have to travel, be with Brother Raymond as he travels. Continue to keep us all, Father. You said that if we love you, keep your commandments, and we should do that. Forgive us of our sins and shortcomings. In Jesus' name we pray, and amen.
Amen.